It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
the Hyperspace
Podcasting in the 25th Century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the Hyperspace Podcasting in the 25th Century, the interwebs' one and only podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Mike.
Guys, I just got back from Mars. I was taking the economy shuttle today.
Oh, man, why would you do that?
I was low on credits.
Do they even have bathrooms on those things?
Bathrooms? No.
It's hang it out the window? Or is it like those old Apollo bathrooms that they have on the Apollo capsules?
No, you just kind of walk up to the special wall and it just kind of beams it out of you.
Oh, okay. Wow.
But it wasn't a pleasant journey. It was cramped. It was full. You know, back in the century that we came from, you know, space flight was limited to a few rocket launches and what we got to see in the movies. And that really kind of made me appreciate the fact that I was in space traveling from Mars, albeit economy.
Yeah. Well, what were you thinking about, Matt? Is it something you'd like to maybe bring to the audience of the 25th century today?
Why, Jared, that's a great idea. I think today we should share out to the 25th century some of our favorite movie spacecraft.
Movie and TV shows, perhaps?
I love that idea, Mike.
TV shows. Now, should we just do it in one big shot, or should we break them up into different classes?
Oh, slow down. This is a lot to talk about. We should probably break this up into several different episodes, starting maybe, in my opinion, with the small Starfighter class.
I think that's a great idea.
I appreciate that.
I would have preferred doing the space tugs, but I guess we can do the...
If we have time, maybe we'll highlight the space tugs, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. I think that's a really bad idea.
All right, well, I'd like to announce to everyone this is my last podcast. I'm starting my own podcast. It's all space tugs all the time, so make sure you tune in for the space tug breakdown.
Okay. We got some great news. We got some random thoughts coming. I say without further delay, let's get into that news from the interwebs.
News from the interwebs.
All right, today in news from the interwebs. Recently, it was announced that Ewan McGregor would be coming back to Star Wars in an Obi-Wan Kenobi show on the Disney Plus streaming service. Gentlemen, what do you think about this news?
Well, I think it's pretty much the most amazing thing I've ever heard as far as Star Wars news.
Absolutely.
Man, I would have been overjoyed with a 2-hour Obi-Wan film, but it sounds like this is going to be, 6 to 10 hours.
Man, with the production level that they have today, the fact that we're going to get all these episodes with Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan, man, I'll take that over a movie any day of the week.
Yeah, if you would have told me after Revenge of the Sith was over that, hey, there's more Ewan coming in 10 more hours of it, I would have laughed in your face. Mike, you made a point that you thought maybe the future of Star Wars would be in the streaming realm.
The movies feel like they're kind of like in a bit of a disarray, with the Last Jedi's very mixed reactions and, the Solo not doing that well, which is unfortunate because it was actually, I think we all discussed how much we liked it. But, I mean, we've seen Clone Wars is coming back. Previews look amazing. I watched it with someone today, in fact, and I was it got me excited again of how good it looked. Mandalorian looks amazing, and this new Obi-Wan show with Ewan McGregor, it's like Disney is fumbling with the movies, but they're
nailing it for the TV.
It looks like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Rebels was good.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan is that kind of character. He's that perfect bridge for TV, especially with Ewan McGregor playing it. Because Obi-Wan, you grew up, he was one of the first characters you remember from Star Wars as a kid. Ewan McGregor did a great job reprising him in the prequels. And the fact that we get to get that carried over to see the story connect, hopefully to right up to A New Hope, that's my hope. That's just an amazing prospect. I can't wait to see what they do with it.
Well, I think too, he's made that role his own. I mean, he started emulating Alec Guinness, who obviously, he's set the standard for the character. And I think of Obi-Wan at this point, I think of Ewan McGregor before I think of Alec Guinness. And
Yeah, that's fair.
and that's not meant to be disrespectful to Alec Guinness in any form or fashion, but I mean, obviously Ewan got to play him more, but also he had more growth with the character.
I think Obi-Wan is probably my favorite Star Wars character. As far as his character arc, he went through, he defeated Darth Maul. He went through all of the Clone Wars, and then he basically watched over Luke for 20 years in the desert. And I don't know, there's something very noble about the character.
Well, he's like the perfect Jedi. Like of all the Jedi in all the movies, I mean, he's like the standard,
Yeah.
He's the guy that he's very humble, but at the same time, he can take care of himself in a fight.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Obi-Wan became one of the greatest Jedis, I think, that ever existed in the lore of Star Wars.
I
He was
agree.
an amazing Jedi. And he's also, Jared, to your point, he's a really rich character. I mean, even though in the original trilogy he had smaller parts, they wrote him to be a very complicated character, and there's a lot of depth and a lot of pain to him that Alec Guinness got to explore in just a few lines and just a little bit of screen time. And then Ewan McGregor got to fill in some of those gaps. And so to take that character and to expand on what we already know is just going to be one of the best. It's one of the biggest Star Wars moments I've ever looked forward to. I'm really excited about this.
Well, the challenge for the show is going to be Obi-Wan has to stay low key.
Yeah,
because he's in hiding.
He can't go on some grand galactic adventure.
Well, and he has to stay on Tatooine. I mean, if he leaves Tatooine,
maybe he does. You never know.
If he does, I think you'll kind of be like, no, you're watching Luke. You have to stay there. That's what I think.
I mean, listen, we could think about all kinds of scenarios. I mean, listen, are we going to see a young Luke? Who's going to get cast as young Luke? What if Luke goes off world in this, for some reason? Who knows? I mean, I don't know if he will, but it's going to be really interesting, to your point, Mike, seeing Obi-Wan staying low-key and in the background. And hopefully we can all get clarity on the Jedi robes as not just a hermitage kind of outfit, but how it goes into both the Jedi world and as a dirt hermit. So I hope they can bridge that gap for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is something that really bothers Matt and has for years. He can't get past it.
And how he aged.
Robes are stupid.
And how he aged so hard.
That Uncle Owen wears Jedi robes, that just irritates Matt no end.
Oh, anyways. So beyond my enraged for the Jedi robe outfit, this is going to be really fun. I'm really excited.
Absolutely.
We have some other Star Wars related news too, don't we, Jared?
Yes, we do. In a few weeks' time, the Hyperspace is going to be starting a Star Wars retrospective show. We're going to be leading up to the release of Rise of Skywalker. The Hyperspace will be taken over by the Tashi Station Diaries, where in each episode we'll break down and discuss one of the movies or the television series, and the series will conclude with our review of the Rise of Skywalker. So I'm really looking forward to that.
We've kind of already started it a little bit when our premiere episode, when we went over The Phantom Menace.
The 20th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. Yeah.
So everybody, you should check out the Hyperspace on Facebook, where you'll get great updates and great ways to participate in the Tashi Station Diaries as well.
Yes, please. If you don't like us on Facebook yet, head on over there and give us a like. And we're going to be keeping some content coming from a galaxy far, far away.
But I was going into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Random access memory.
This is the part of our podcast where we like to venture into random space, and we're going to bring you with us. Today, guys, I have a random thought for you. Random question.
Yeah, what's
Shoot,
that?
Matt.
So, I know you both are really into physical media still, which is bizarre in the 25th century since everything's beamed directly to your brain.
Yeah.
I kind of gave up on physical media a little while ago, but I have a question. What was, if you can remember, your very first DVD?
Oh, I know
yeah.
that. No
I
doubt.
remember.
In fact, I think Jared's and my stories will probably intertwine.
It's very possible.
I'll go first and let Jared finish. I was at Best Buy. I was, perusing and had just introduced their DVD section of movies, and they had Starship Troopers. And I looked at it, and it was jam-packed with special features. And I had laser discs, so I was kind of like reluctant to do the DVD thing because I was like a Laserdisc snob, no, Laserdisc's better. But anyway, I saw that DVD and I thought, well, I have to have it. So I got the old Best Buy charge card and charged my $500 DVD player, which I still have, and it still
No big
works.
surprise.
It still
Wow.
works. And I bought Starship Troopers. That was, I really like that movie. And man, still one of the best DVDs I've ever bought. With as far as with content that came with it. And I'm pretty sure I got home and just immediately started watching it. And then I remember passing Jared at our place of employment shop at home. And I told him about it. And I think he got a little envious.
Yeah. So probably the next day, I went to Best Buy, opened a charge card account, and purchased a $500 DVD player. I bought 2 movies. At that time, Terry was way into Antonio Banderas. So I bought Desperado for her.
I like that movie. That's a good one.
And for me, I bought the James Bond movie Tomorrow Never Dies on DVD. So those were I bought those. I bought the 2 DVDs and the player all in the same shot.
Nice.
So, yeah, and that was, I guess, 21 years ago now. Like 98, 97 maybe.
97,
Jeez.
because we were still in Knoxville.
Oh, man. See, that's a long time ago. Good
97.
grief.
I think Starship Troopers came out in 97, so that must have been right, a quick release on that DVD.
Unless Starship, yeah, because, we were still living in Knoxville, and we didn't move to Nashville till 98. So, unless it was like early 98 or something. I don't know, but that's when I know it was in Knoxville.
But I know, after those 2 discs I bought, my collection exploded.
Should we tell the real.com story?
Yeah, we'll do that real quick because that's a good one. Okay, so there's this website called Reel.com, REEL.com. And, man, this was like 98. And me and Mike abused this website. They sold DVDs.
Well, first of all, I think they were run by the Three Stooges.
Yeah, I believe
for
so.
starters.
So what happened was they would email us these outrageous coupons, like, spend $20 and we'll give you 50, or some craziness like. And so me and Mike were just buying DVDs by the dozens, and sometimes they would double ship, so you'd have 2 of the same orders. Which then you would take all the duplicates you received right down to the used CD store and get credit there and get like 5 more DVDs. And we took advantage of these coupons and their ridiculous shipping problems for about a year. It was amazing.
It was the salad years. I mean, it was, and we both knew, like, this can't last. There's no way. They even did this thing where if you did a trivia thing every day, you could accumulate credit. And I would log in every single day and do these trivia questions so that I could accumulate credit. And of course, the day came when you went to their website and they posted,
Yeah.
"We are closed."
Yeah. It was an amazing time, though. I probably still have a few of the DVDs I got from Reel.com. And I believe it still exists as some sort of entertainment website, but they no longer sell things. Thank God for them. So,
That's funny. I don't remember the Reel.com. It sounds like in high school there was that, you could buy CDs with like BMG music or something like that.
But that was, man, they'd come after you. I got a collection agency sent after me from those guys. Reel.com, they didn't care. They just send you another case of DVDs that you didn't order.
They had no idea what they were doing. It was like, you'd get your DVD and you'd be like all excited and watch it, and the next day you'd check the mail and
You get another one, the same one.
You'd be like, what is this?
Hey, I got like 5 copies of Unforgiven over here. I don't know what happened. So yeah, it was. That's a good memory, Matt. Matt, do you remember your first DVD?
Yeah, I do. I remember I got my first DVD player. I think in 2000 from where I worked at a shopping network, and I went out and I went to Best Buy and I saw Transformers the movie, and that was the first one I bought from 1986.
Oh, the animated movie.
The animated one. And I remember buying it because it was a coincidence that I had just saw it, because I was having a disagreement with somebody at work, and I don't remember who it was now, trying to tell me that there were no swear words in the movie Transformers. And I hadn't seen it since I was a kid in the theater. So I'd always kind of, remembered the movie, and I was going to grab it and prove him wrong, and I proved him wrong because Spike yells,
"Damn."
He says,
"Oh,
the
shit."
S word.
Yeah, he says, and it was such a big moment for me when I was in the theater, because you watch Transformers as a kid, and all of a sudden you're watching the movie. And first off, the movie was much different than the show, if you remember.
Yes.
Your top favorite characters are dying within the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Killed
People
off.
getting slaughtered. Spike is swearing. So it was a growing moment for me back in 1986 when I saw that, to be sure. But that was the first DVD I got, and I proved him wrong. I think I got rid of all my DVDs. I got rid of everything, except I still think I have that one. I think I kept that one.
The Shout Factory one they just re-released doesn't have that.
Yeah, I heard there are versions that go around that doesn't have it. And in fact, I think that's what the issue was, is that when it went into VHS, it went to like the Blockbuster, it was edited where you didn't have it, but the DVD did have it included.
I remember the VHS was edited because I rented it, and it wasn't in there.
Well,
so that was the big argument. If you didn't see it in the theater, then I can see how people would think that wasn't included.
Well, this is kind of random on the random, but there's a similar thing that happened with the Swamp Thing DVD. The original
takes it back to Swamp Thing.
The original DVD that was released, they didn't release the U.S. version. They released the European version, and in the European version, Adrienne Barbeau, who I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but she's pretty well endowed, and there's a scene where she's bathing in the swamp.
Yeah,
and,
which is perfectly clean.
And it's in the European versions, they don't care that much about that, so it was like an extended shot of her, and
bathing.
Parents were complaining because basically
Kids are renting Swamp Thing and they're getting more than a little bonus.
Oh yeah, it's Swamp Thing. That's fine.
Dad, can I rent Swamp Thing again? You just watch it. No, I want to watch it again.
I
Can
love
you go
Swamp
re-rent
Thing. I love it. You want the comics? No, I'll stick with the movie.
This is 7 weeks in a row.
So they took it off. They actually took it off the market because I remember I'd been wanting it and I missed out. It was like that time they released Ed Wood and it was on the shelf for like an hour.
Yeah, and they pulled it.
Guys, thank you for your answers to that random question. But I think now we need to buckle our safety belts, put our helmets on, jump into space, and pick a few battles, because it's time. It's time to share some of our favorite spaceships.
Going in. Here goes nothing.
All right, we're going to talk now about our favorite Starfighters. You know, we got to grow up in the golden age of movies and television, and we got to see a lot of them, so we're going to share out some of our favorites. And I'm going to kick it off, guys, with one of my favorites, the Gunstar from 1986's The Last Starfighter.
You're going to talk about The Last Starfighter first.
You see what I did there?
Yeah, fantastic. Tell us about it.
Well, The Last Starfighter is a movie for me, something kind of special. When I was 11 years old, it was one of the first movies I got to see by myself in the theater. My parents dropped me off, and that was kind of one of those memorable experiences that you take it all in. It's something new. But that movie visually was something unique as well. You know, the Gunstar, for people who don't know, was the very first fully CGI animated spaceship ever. So there was no models, there was no practical effects used on it. It was 100% CGI, and it's something that you just really hadn't seen before. You'd seen kind of computer effects in movies like Tron before, but you hadn't really seen it in its full motion like The Last Starfighter. And it had amazing graphics, and the colors were really vibrant on the screen, and it was a fun movie. And the Gunstar was also special because only the special pilots got to become Starfighters. And Lance Guest, starring in it as Alex, played a video game, and he was recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Armada. And he got a chance to go to a different world and be a starfighter. And as a kid, that was a really fantastic, unique possibility. You're like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing in the world.
That's me. I play video games. I could be recruited.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what that's what stuck with a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, and that kind of mystique about the Starfighters and the Gunstar as a ship really made me, as a movie watcher and to this day, make it feel special as a special ship. But the Gunstar, if you watch the movie, all the fleet was destroyed, and there was one brand new prototype Gunstar left that had all kinds of special weapons, and they did some amazing things in the movie where they saved the whole frontier with Death Blossom.
Should I do it?
Easy, easy. Wait till they're all in Death Blossom range. Fire!
They had all these cool weapons, and you know, it was a fun movie. But you know, reading up on the Gunstar, it was designed by a guy named Ron Cobb, who was one of the chief production artists on Alien and Conan the Barbarian. And I got some cool news though about The Last Starfighter. So apparently, one of the writers of the story, Rogue One, is in talks right now to do a sequel or a reboot of the Last Starfighter.
Interesting.
Gary Whitta, one of the
Whitta.
writers of Rogue One. He's been actively trying to pursue a story, apparently, to either do a direct sequel or reboot it. So I'm kind of excited about it.
I vote for a direct sequel, and I already know what you can call it. The Last Starfighters. There you go.
Hey, you just add an S like Alien.
And
it writes itself.
I mean, come on. And you could do it with the multi-game online playing. That's how they get recruited. There,
Pretty big.
done. You're welcome, Hollywood.
So you basically kind of pull a Tron legacy on it and bring it into the present day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And you know, that movie actually, before we move on, has one of my favorite pieces of music, actually, out of all movies, from composer Craig Saffin, who actually worked on Cheers, I believe. He didn't do much.
He did a Nightmare movie, too.
Yeah, but you know, if you listen to the score, I believe it's called Into the Starscape, it's great music, and it's really, really a complex, really fun, upbeat score. And you just don't hear anything else from this guy. And I just feel that there was a lot of talent there that Hollywood never tapped into, because it was really it really made part of the movie special for me, that music. So as a whole package, The Last Starfighter is a true guilty pleasure for me.
Well,
but yeah, the Gunstar, going to kick it off.
Well, I think one of the things I liked about the Gunstar was some of the best scenes in the movie took place in the cockpit when him and Grig were talking. You know, there's like great interaction between those two characters. It's like really fun. You know, Grig is really enthusiastic, and of course Alex is a little less so. But I think it's stuff like that that made you feel like you were in the ship. That's the stuff I like. You know, when the ship landed and he comes down on the lift, and I think that's the stuff that kind of drew me into the movie, is you felt like you were in that ship. And then, you know, the Death Blossom was something you'd never seen before. I don't know how realistic something like that would be in an actual fight like that, but you know, they you know, it's a movie. But it's a cool ship. I liked it. I like the movie. It's directed by Michael Myers, so you can't really go wrong there.
It's directed by Michael Myers?
Yeah, Nick Castle was Michael Myers in
Really?
Halloween. Yeah.
That's right, he was. Holy crap. How did I just now find this out? Dang it. Well, it certainly is a unique movie. I like the fact that it kind of had the balls to just, you know, because even audiences back then, you weren't 100% buying what you were seeing. It wasn't like Star Wars. It wasn't quite photorealistic.
Oh no!
But they went for it.
Yeah, they did
it. And I think they, you know, you could kind of get away with it, you know, with the whole video game thing. But it's a very unique movie and not something they would even try today. Well,
I think the fact that they did it full throttle. This is what we're doing. We're not going to try to hide it. And I think once you kind of like first, you know, you saw that it was a little, okay, it's not photoreal, but the movie was good enough, and you're like, okay, I'm in. Let's do this.
Yeah, you're right. And to your point, Mike, the character development was enough where you could be okay with the effects because you were getting lost in the story and you were believing the characters.
But it was still cool, and it was interesting on my digital media version of The Last Starfighter. That was one of the first ones Universal released as like a collector's edition, and had a really great documentary on it. And Dennis Muren was talking about the people that did the effects for that. I guess they got a bunch of people together to look at what they were doing and what they had done. They'd rendered out some X-Wing fighters. And they had the X-Wing fighters doing the loops and stuff like that in space. And, you know, everyone was just kind of like, I guess it was the same thing where they weren't like photo real. But like, I guess everyone was kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that looks great. But Dennis Muren was like looking at it going, wow. He said, I saw that and I knew that that's where it was going. Like that's eventually where it was going to be. And he was right, because that's exactly what happened. Because you could do shots that weren't in camera that were more dynamic and exciting. But it's, you know, it's a good movie. Like, you know, we've talked about Tron. Tron is an important movie as far as using CG, but it's not really a very good movie. Last Starfighter is an important movie because it's all CG, and it's still a good movie. It's still a fun movie, and the Gunstar is a cool ship.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Thank you.
Well, you know, speaking of that CGI revolution, the next ship was a completely CGI ship, but much more photoreal than anything in The Last Starfighter. And we're talking about the Jedi Starfighters from the prequels, flown by Obi-Wan and Anakin, specifically in Revenge of the Sith, in the
great opening sequence.
The giant battle above Coruscant. Those are cool little ships.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite battle scenes, actually, in all the Star Wars films.
Yeah, it was really amazing, on a big screen especially.
Yes.
They're flying along that Star Destroyer, and then they fly out in front of it, and it's just complete and utter chaos everywhere. And I like those Jedi Starfighters because they have elements of the TIE fighter in them. as far
right,
as
exactly.
the engine noise and the cockpit. They're definitely they're ancestors of the TIE Fighter, which makes sense since the Republic becomes the Empire.
No, they're neat. They're neat ships.
Yeah.
Great shot of Obi-Wan crashing in the hangar and flipping out of his cockpit and slicing through some droids. I love that shot.
You know, it's one of those kind of great inclusions in Revenge of the Sith where you got to see the Jedi really in space doing things that weren't quite, lightsaber-esque and Force-esque. That
they were.
You got to see their talented pilot skills. You got to see Anakin as an amazing star pilot, which honestly, you really didn't get that too much. You have to ignore the Phantom Menace a little bit with the corny Jake
That's
Lloyd.
a neat trick.
Exactly. This is where you get to see the great star pilot that Obi-Wan hinted at in
the best
New
star
Hope, finally.
pilot in the galaxy.
Yeah, and he was great, and it was really exciting to watch. And those Starfighters were great vehicles. They were really, really awesome. They were just very unique Jedi-esque.
Yeah, they were different.
Fighters
They were different from what the clones were flying.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So
It was almost like a little compact car. It was just what they needed. It was just them.
It was just a cockpit, wings, and engines and weapons.
They had the
was it.
droid, and they had
And
the
the droid.
the hyperspace attachment.
The ring.
The ring.
Which I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
Like,
that was a cool.
idea.
That was a cool addition. I mean, it's something that's totally random, but it's like, oh well, this doesn't have hyperdrive, but hey, look, we got this ring.
And I love when they go dormant, because when they would fly away from it, the thing would go dormant, like the lights would go off, and it would just kind of like
It
sag.
just like hang there.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was a cool device. It was a good way of doing it.
But that was another movie where you see him in the cockpit, and you really get pulled into it, into the ship while they're flying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I tell you, the prequels weren't my favorite piece of Star Wars, but I have to tell you, Revenge of the Sith, that opening sequence was just amazing. I mean, you have to watch it like 10 times to take it all in. There's so much going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to see that in the theater was such a great experience. The sound, the noise, the visual was just
to this day it still looks amazing.
Yeah, I
mean
agree.
it's flawless. Maybe something that doesn't look as flawless as Revenge of the Sith, but holds a special spot in Mike's heart. Mike, what are you going to tell us about here?
I have always loved the V Starfighters. I think they're cool looking little ships, and I think for the most part in the show, I mean, they look pretty good for a TV. There was a couple times they looked a little wanky, and they did do the reused shots, obviously.
Yes. Yeah, we talked about that on our previous episode. We were talking about Diana.
And I just thought those were just really cool looking little ships. And the funny thing about it is, usually ships like the visitors, the saucers to me didn't look anything like their little fighters. Like it almost looked like they didn't belong together, if that makes any sense. Like
Yes.
They weren't designed by the same people. And another cool thing I liked about those ships is, they would land, you'd see them in like a parking lot, and you'd see them, the visitors walking in and out of them. And to me, that just sold the reality of them. Like that these were, like even in the like Star Wars, and you never saw like people getting in and out of the TIE fighters. I mean, you did some in the X-Wings, but the fact that it was just sitting in a parking lot, and then it would just lift off and fly off to the mothership. To me, that was just, I don't know, it just felt very real. But yeah, I thought they were cool.
They do have that, I think, late 70s, early 80s design about them. Like that ship looks like it could have been on Battlestar Galactica or Buck Rogers, I think.
Really? Because I kind of disagree. I think the V Starfighter is like sort of its own thing. I mean, it almost looks like a car. Like it's sleek. You know what I mean?
It's like the Honda Civic of spaceships. That we've talked about V several times so far on the podcast. It was such a fun show for us when we were younger. Yeah, you're right about the V Starfighter. You know, when I was a kid watching, I remember thinking, I want to take a ride in that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, that's the kind of Starfighter that I wanted to just kind of like go around the town in and just fly around.
You basically
it wasn't like a battle fighter for me. It was like I just want to take it up for a ride.
You basically said what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. It was like a ship you wanted to take a ride in.
Yeah.
And I used to get the V comics, and I used to trace the ships, and I would learn, like, I would actually draw the ships on my notebook paper at school.
You're right in that the full-scale model that people can interact with and go in and out of, that really sells it.
Yeah, because it makes it feel more real, like they're, well, that has to be real, because I just saw them get into it, sort of thing. Like,
right.
Especially when you're like a kid. And here's a little trivial tidbit. You can see one of them in the lot in one of the deleted scenes in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I'll look that up.
he rides through the lot, and you can see one of the V fighters sitting there.
It's always good to talk about V.
V's getting a lot of love on the show lately.
It sure is.
Thanks to Mike. All right.
We're going to dive into our next one. I'll tee this one up.
Mm-hmm.
One of Star Wars' more bulldogish kind of fighters.
Mm-hmm.
The Clone Gunship.
Yeah.
Jared, one of your favorites.
Yeah, I think so. So these ships first appeared in Attack of the Clones, and when I saw them, they really reminded me of like a Huey or, you know, some sort of transport like that, landing and, you know, dumping out guys and then just taking off again. The sound design on those two was fantastic. Ben Burt working his magic, creating a really unique sound that we hadn't really heard yet, kind of like a, I don't know, like just a strange engine noise that, you know, of course is playing in the background right now as we speak about it. I just think it's a cool looking ship. What say ye?
Well, I think that, to your point, when those ships showed up in the Clone Wars, the whole feel of the movie changed.
Pilots! Land in that assembly area! Yes, sir.
Like they shot it like they started to shoot it like a war movie, like, you know, with the quick zoom pans and stuff like that.
Like the handheld type shots.
Yeah, and it felt like the thing about those ships, I've always thought, is I was like, I would not want to have to ride in one of those.
Oh no, with the open doors and
because dang, I mean, it's just like, and you would see them like getting, like, in the background they'd be getting blown up, you know.
Yeah, just like falling from the sky.
Yeah. It was very, I'm sure, intentionally so, like very like stuff you'd see like from Vietnam.
Yeah,
like those movies. You know, I like the way with the missiles, you'd see the missiles rotate, you know,
yeah, on the back of the ship.
They were yeah. It's and if it but it did feel like practical as far as what you would use for a war, you know. They would land, those big doors would open up, they would all fall out, and then they would take off. You know, that was their job, just to land and take off.
Leave them and then probably go get more.
That's a really good point. You know, that was one of the few vehicles that exactly that felt like this could be in a real war. Like,
yeah,
it fit really well. I think that's why it was. I bought into it so well. Is that you could see that in a true battle. You know, like that makes sense.
And it became a staple in the Clone Wars show. I mean, that thing was
you got to see that all over
the
time.
place.
You find out in the Clone Wars, I think, that they're also spacefaring. I mean, they can seal their, you know, they can fly in space because the doors will seal, and, you know, they drop them from like a destroyer, and then, you know, they go through the atmosphere. But
and they did a great job when those things were coming under some very heavy flak of just having them like that claustrophobic feel when they would have those doors shut, and it would be almost dark except for like the red light. And you hear the explosions outside, and it was very effective.
Yeah, I think it was a really strong addition, but it felt like it belonged in Star Wars too.
Yeah, And I hate to be one of those guys in the bubble, because that seems
Oh,
like
but
the
you know,
worst.
did you notice the bubble has like the little miniature Death Star laser that like
Yeah.
comes
yeah.
together and yeah, but the bubble is just like in a B-17. That's not where you want to be.
It's like,
That's the short straw.
you're going to be in
crew
the
right
bubble.
there.
No. Great.
Sir, I
Tell
don't
my-
want to be in the bubble, sir.
Tell my clone canister that I loved her.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a good addition to our list today, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jared, this next one was your suggestion.
Yeah, you know what? We're gonna stick in the Star Wars galaxy here. I've always been a fan of the Y-wing.
Red Leader, this is Gold Leader.
We're starting our attack run
On the shield gate. Keep it tight and watch out for those towers.
It's not like sleek like the X-wings were. I think in A New Hope, the Y-wings looked like
Dirty.
They looked old, but
Clunky.
Yeah, but like old but strong.
Yeah,
like
I think that's...
like they'd been around, and we find out later, of course, they were around in the Clone Wars, because in the Clone Wars it presented a much sleeker, newer version of the Y-wing. But what we see in the original trilogy are those ships, but stripped of everything that makes them pretty. You know, there's no more smooth surfaces. You know, it doesn't look like a sports car anymore. It looks like a beat up muscle car.
Yeah, that's true. Even the Y-wing pilot uniforms were kind of dingy and ugly.
Yeah.
They weren't sleek. They were,
a lot of
It was a special lot that flew the Y-wing.
sure. But I think in the original Star Wars film, most of the guys were wearing the orange jumpsuits. But by the time of Jedi, they had really differentiated what the pilots were wearing. Like the X-wing pilots stuck with the orange jumpsuits, but everybody else was wearing like a mishmash of whatever.
And I have to say, and I know Mike will certainly agree with me, that the Y-wing was a true Star Wars bomber versus the abomination that we saw more recently.
Wait a minute,
in the
Matt.
last.
Are you saying that a ship that can maneuver in three-dimensional space is better than a ship that flies in a straight line? And
A big clunky ship?
sole purpose is to be a target. Is that what you're
You
saying?
mean you're saying in a spacefaring battle, a slow-moving,
Linear.
bulbous, linear traveling ship that carpet bombs doesn't make sense?
I don't know.
ridiculous.
We're probably, it's just that our expectations were not
could-
met, and we're just mad about it.
I know I can name almost every ship in Star Wars, and I know that ship has a name, but I'm not learning that name, and I don't care about that name. Whatever that name is going to be Ryan Johnson's toilet.
Flying turd.
I'm gonna find my book that has it.
It's like,
I don't wanna
could you
know it.
imagine? I mean, what brainchild would be like, okay, we need you to travel straight forward in a line towards this massive ship that has about a kabillion guns on it. Good luck.
I'm gonna tangent off briefly because that sequence where those ridiculous bombers attacked the
The Star Destroyer.
it wasn't a Star Destroyer. It
It was a dreadnought.
It was a dreadnought. There was actually the only good scene in The Last Jedi was that Imperial officer carryover who was angry at Hux for taking so long. To me, that was the best character in the entire movie. And I got to get one line from the guy. And I actually thought maybe there's some hope for this movie. And then that whole bomber line came in and ruined the entire thing for me. So that nameless
No, his
name
name
that I'll
was,
never
his,
learn.
His
bomber.
name was. Oh,
No, not him.
Yeah.
The bomber.
Okay.
That guy I'm going to look up. That guy deserves a bonus.
Yeah. We'll give him.
Anyways, I digress.
We'll give him a little love on the show here.
Captain Kennedy, why aren't you blasting that puny ship?
That puny ship is too small and to too close range. We need to scramble out fighters. 5 bloody minutes ago.
He'll never penetrate our armor.
He's not trying to penetrate our armor. He's clearing out our surface cannons. Are the auto cannons primed?
Primed and ready, sir.
What are we waiting for? Fire on the base!
No, but to go back to the Y-wing, The Y-wing for me was always a really neat, a really special ship because when I was a kid, one of the first toys I actually remember getting was a die-cast. I think it was a 1979 die-cast Y-wing, and my dad got it for me after I had like a hernia operation when I was a kid, so you had to go under, and then you're in the recovery room. And when my dad met me in the recovery room, he gave me the Star Wars thing, and it's one of the first toys I really remember having.
Was it his way of apologizing for having you pick up all those heavy rocks?
Another one, kid. But I kept that Y-wing for years. I lost it more recently than not. But the Y-wing for me, I always had that model. I always had that toy. I always played with it forever. So for me, the Y-wing was always cool because of that toy.
That's awesome. A Y-wing did show up on one of the leaked posters for Rise of Skywalker. So maybe JJ is bringing the Y-wing back.
In JJ we trust. That's all we can do.
That's all we can do.
Hey, what about those bomber? No, we're gonna pretend like those didn't exist. I can fix the lightsaber. I can fix the helmet. But
I think all the bombers got destroyed anyway, right?
I know, because they were in that perfect formation, like the ducks at the carnival.
Yeah,
we should just move on. Yeah. Y-wing deserves its place. Yeah. The other bomber deserves no place.
The abomination.
Exactly.
All right, next.
This one's mine, actually.
Yeah,
go for it.
Just so everyone knows, we actually combined this list. It wasn't really meant to be like our individual lists, but they're actually kind of the way we're going through them. They're ended up the people who picked.
I mean,
them.
we sort of
coincidental.
Yeah,
But
so
anyway,
where are we going next?
I have one ship I've always really liked, and actually had the toy for it when I was a kid, and I got a little bit of a funny story for it.
Oh no! Oh.
It's not that. I mean, it's just like mildly amusing, maybe.
Okay.
I don't even know that. Anyway, the Colonial Viper from Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Beautiful.
That ship was amazing.
One of the best.
One of the best. It looked fantastic. And the thing about that ship that you got that you haven't seen in any other ship is you got to see him fly it with the stick.
Yeah,
that's true.
And I remember, and they had the buttons that there was the thrust,
turbo, fire, and thrust.
Yes. And I think that more than anything sold it, like really sold the ship, like made it felt functional. Like you never, I love Star Wars. I love Star Wars ships. And with the exception of Solo, you don't see them. You just see them moving their hands around. And the Colonial
Not
Viper,
really flying the ship, right?
And the Colonial Viper, you felt like they were flying it. And it was a neat looking ship. Even those silly little Pharaoh helmets were cool looking at the time. And they all
internally illuminated lights right in your eyes,
which makes no sense.
But they're in space. So
yeah, sure.
You would need some lights.
Well, yes, sure.
Maybe not right in your eye.
A flashlight in your eye is still harmful in space.
But anyway, and in a special mention, the Cylon Raiders were pretty awesome.
I was going to say the Cylon Raider of the original series was great.
We can destroy the Pegasus.
By order of the Imperious leader through his commander, Baltar. You are to disengage at once and move with all dispatch to Gamorre to save our Imperious leader.
Disengage Pegasus and proceed to Gamorre.
Yeah, those were both great ships. I know that Macquarie designed the Galactica. I'm not sure if he designed the fighters.
I think he did. I think he
designed.
did.
I'm pretty sure he designed the Cylon base ship, which was another cool looking ship.
Yeah.
I wanted a Viper. I wanted to fly around in a Viper. I mean,
I agree.
And when I was a kid, I had the ship, and it launched the little torpedo.
Yeah, that's the thing that. That's the thing that ended the rocket firing Boba Fett's career.
Yeah, well, probably.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I put it the torpedo in a gun, a plastic gun I had. This is going to sound really morbid. Now that I'm telling this story, it sounds very morbid. But I took the gun and I stuck it in my mouth. And I inhaled. And that torpedo went straight down my throat. And
were you the kid that got choked?
I didn't choke. I swallowed it. I mean, it was like Luke firing into the Death Star, man. It just went straight down my gullet.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
I mean, so many things of why I was doing. I don't know. So
You're the reason.
You shot it and it inhaled.
I didn't shoot it. I just put it in the muzzle. I just placed it in there, and I put the gun in my mouth. I mean, good grief. I sound like a psycho now. And I just inhaled. I was just breathing, and I just inhaled, and it went straight down my throat. Man. And I told my mom about it, and she told me how I could retrieve it, and so I never got that back.
Oh
yeah.
man.
So anyway,
that was a Ralph McQuarrie design, by the way.
Oh, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a really cool looking ship.
And you know, one of my favorite aspects of the new show is that they brought those back.
Yeah.
Almost unchanged design.
Well, you know, when they first teased that show, they had in the first trailer, it came out from underneath, I think,
like a
tarp
tarp
sheet or
a
tarp, and there it was, and it was the Mark II, as they refer to it as the original.
Yeah,
Viper, the Mark II Viper.
They flew them too.
Yeah,
they did because in the show
they didn't work.
They needed reserves, and since the Galactica in the show was a museum,
they weren't linked in because they shut all the Vipers down, and the old ones weren't linked in.
That's
right.
And
so they got the Mark IIs out, and the Mark 7s were disabled for a bit. But
the
but you know, even the Mark 7s, the new Vipers were very much in line with the original Vipers.
They were just updated versions. But
you know, there's a lot of really good about that new Battlestar Galactica that we'll talk about at some point. There's a lot of really bad too, but what they got really right were the ships
and the space battles.
The space battles.
It was amazing.
That show really did it right. But the Viper was such a great choice.
Yeah. Oh, and you got to talk about the launch sequence that they went through.
Oh,
coming out of the tube. Oh,
that
dude,
was
come
awesome.
On.
You're right. I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
But
Dude,
just
when they
so
launched.
Unique.
Yeah, you hadn't seen anything like that.
And they would they'd always jerk their heads back. You know, from
like they were being catapulted. Yeah.
They sold it. You know, jumping into the new series, Exodus 2, the episode, I forget what season, one of the most amazing TV science fiction moments I've ever witnessed when the Galactica jumped into orbit, into atmosphere, and released its Vipers in atmosphere. It's one of the best
and they come
moments of TV.
shooting out of
through the fire of the heat of
and
the
you just see the
Galactica
keep falling, and then it jumps off and like just leaves this shockwave.
So great.
It was awesome.
You're clear. Stand by.
That was like the last really good story of that series.
No, you're right.
And it just took a gigantic, massive dump.
And I think that might have been the either the season finale or the opener, because after that you had overweight Apollo.
It was the season
in orbit.
It was the first few episodes of the new season, because that's how season 2 ended.
It was season 3.
Because season 2 ended with them they colonized the planet, and then the Cylons showed up.
But that episode was like the last great episode of that show.
And you had hope that, boy, the show's really kicking itself into super gear, and then it just
it
fell flat.
Such a dump.
But we'll talk about that later. But the Viper is definitely one of the best ships I ever watched as a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely deserves to be on this list.
All right, so continuing on now.
I think these next two really deserve place of honor towards the top here.
Next,
the TIE Fighter.
Oh man, the iconic sound.
Nothing else looks like it. Nothing else ever graced the screen that had any characteristics of a TIE Fighter. It was just special.
Yeah, the sound of the guns. Nothing looked like it. It's had a lot of variations too, which have been really cool. I mean, all the way up until that interceptor that was in the Rise of Skywalker trailer that was really awesome looking. So, I mean, it's really versatile, but it is. I think it's one thing that's just carried along for so long. I mean, the design in Force Awakens was virtually unchanged except for, the color scheme. But TIE Fighters, awesome.
It's one of those ships that when I think of Star Wars, the first thing I think about is the TIE Fighter. It really emblazed into my brain.
Yeah, and just seeing them buzz around the Executor, Darth Vader's Star Destroyer, just like little flies flying around.
After Empire, that was one of the things about Star Wars movies. Is like, oh, what new TIE fighters are we going to get to see?
Yeah,
because in Empire we got the bombers.
Well, you got Darth Vader's TIE Advanced in New Hope.
In the first one, right.
And then you had bombers in Part 2, or in Empire.
The Interceptor.
And then we got the Interceptors.
Mm-hmm.
Jedi. And then, of course, the games and other just went crazy with it.
Man, the TIE Fighter. And I think the pilots look really cool with the all-black helmets. And
with the, the tubes or the hoses hooked up to their helmets.
Yeah. But, I remember watching Star Wars, and I took great note. I mean, you knew Vader was special because his tie was different. He just wasn't going out there in a regular TIE fighter. I mean, his looked cooler somehow with the bent wings and everything. It communicated a lot, especially to a kid, without really doing much work. It's like, hey, Darth Vader's special. He gets this cool ship.
And now we have all the backstory to know how truly a great pilot he was.
Yeah.
That's true.
Very good pilot. So, the TIE Fighters definitely belong here.
That shot in Jedi, when they realize that they have been trapped, and they turn around and the screen is just filled with wave after wave of TIE
it's like
fighters.
A beehive just got smacked and they're all coming at
it's
them.
Right after the...
That's not trap! There's too many of them.
And then the guy's like, there's too many of them. And I would always be like, yeah, no dummy. There's a lot of them. Yeah, they were just buzzing. Crazy.
But those things were death traps because they didn't have shields.
True.
That's right. No hyperdrive, no shields.
No, they were at the mercy. They just...
Power by numbers.
Yeah, they just overwhelmed their opponent. That was the deal.
Yeah. But they really, to me, just kind of... They represented the Empire for me. That ship was the Imperial Enforcer.
Yes. And
it was a cool toy, too, when I was a kid. I remember I had the TIE Fighter.
Yeah, with the wings.
Eject the
wings
off.
I never had the TIE. I mean, I got one, later in life, but never as a kid. I did have an X-Wing
What'd you
fighter.
have?
I had one, too.
I did not have the X-Wing.
Oh, well, what a segue you just ruined.
Shaped like an X.
Yeah, that made me wonder, what is the A-Wing shaped like an A? Or the B-Wing?
It always kind of confused me.
Shaped like a
because
B?
Well, I thought TIE Fighters were called TIE Fighters because they were shaped like a bow tie. I'm not joking. I really thought that.
Yeah, I thought that too. Of course, everyone did.
Yeah. You didn't know it stood for twin ion engine.
Ion engines.
Which they probably didn't know that either when they invented that.
And they call the foils on the X-Wing what?
S-foils.
And that confused me because in the movie, I thought they said Lock X foils, which would have made sense to me because it makes a giant X.
But it's an S-foil for some reason.
I don't understand.
Lock S-foils in attack position.
All wings report in.
Red 10 standing by.
Red 7 standing by.
Red 3 standing by.
Red 6 standing by.
Red 9 standing by.
Red 2 standing by.
Red 11 standing by.
Red 5 standing by.
Lock S-foils in attack position.
Iconic ship, Luke Skywalker's ship
of choice.
Yeah, just a fantastic design.
Apparently they have disappearing ladders.
Yes, they do. Because on Dagobah, when he gets up,
that thing's gone. I always imagined there was like a compartment in the front of the nose.
Like with a robe. I always imagined it folding up into the ship.
I imagine him like picking it up and just placing it in front of him, and then the little compartment would close. That's what I thought.
Well, I don't really think we were meant to to ruminate on such things.
Do you think if he hadn't removed the snake, it would have caused him to crash?
I don't know. I know that snake bit him, though. You see that in the outtakes. Which is...
Did it really? I never saw it.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. It's a YouTube clip. The snake bit him on the hand, and he threw it down.
Oh, jeez.
But, yeah, the X-Wing, it looks like, to me, a ship that... It looks like it could be like a fighter plane on Earth.
Right.
Almost, which I think lends to its appeal. And to Mike's earlier point about V, and this applies to the Y-Wings, too, in A New Hope... They built full-size X and Y wings, and you saw guys climbing on them, getting into the cockpit, which totally sold it.
Yeah, as far as you're concerned, those were the things that were in space.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's probably one of the most iconic Star Wars ships, for sure. The Incom
without a doubt.
T-65. Yeah, come on, look, I got to throw that in there.
Well... That was one of my favorite toys. I love that you hit little R2-D2 head and the wings would pop open.
Oh, yeah. The S-foils locked in attack position. I thought they, it was great to see them in Rogue One, when they brought them back in that attack on that Imperial base with the Y-Wings. Just amazing. I'm always down to watch some X-Wings fly.
Rogue One was such a great movie, and to butt up so close to A New Hope and see all those familiar ships come back was such a great moment.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
To use footage they shot from A New Hope in Rogue One.
Yeah, they put gold
awesome.
leader and red leader in there. That was amazing.
Yeah, right.
That was a great little surprise.
Yeah, so, that's our list of favorite Starfighters. We are going to continue this series.
I'd just like to pop in one little honorable mention before we close it out.
Go ahead.
Snowspeeders are pretty freaking awesome.
Snowspeeders are pretty cool.
Yeah, the Snowspeeders are good. You're right about that.
Steady, Dak. Attack pattern Delta. Go now. All right, coming in. Bobby, you still with me?
Those are the Incom T-47s. Just in case you were wondering.
I was wondering. Thank you for telling me that.
No problem. But yeah, those were awesome too. With the tow cables, knocking down AT-ATs. Come on.
Did they ever bring those in any of the... They never had those in like the Clone Wars or anything, right? The only time we ever saw those was Empire, right?
I don't.
In any capacity?
I don't think they ever brought them back. I don't know.
No, but I've flown those things about 100 times against those AT-ATs in the various video game incarnations.
That's true. That's true. I have tripped my share of AT-ATs in my day. But that's a great little ship, and I am surprised that we never saw them again.
Maybe in the future we'll see some more from Star Wars. Never know. Maybe we'll see a sand speeder in Obi-Wan.
Yeah. Maybe he brought his Jedi Starfighter along. You never know.
It's all dusty and covered under a tarp.
Well, thanks for coming along, podcast pioneers, and taking a look at some of our favorite Starfighters from film and television. We hope you've enjoyed the ride.
Well, I enjoyed it.
It's always great to revisit some of our favorites when we were kids.
Absolutely.
So, if we can bring a little of that to the 25th century, then that would be a better place.
I agree.
Yeah, their ships shaped like hoagie buns. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not very inspired.
Yeah, we don't want none of that.
You know you can't live without this content. So subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.